Thank you all, thank you all. In 1968, cultural icon Andy Warhol stated, "In the future, everyone will have their 15 minutes of fame." Well, growing up with the internet, it seemed like there was a new famous person every month. And currently, it seems like there's a new famous person every day, if not more frequently. So there's this idea called brand equity theory. And when you ask the question of how to build fame, we have to find how theoretically this is possible. And that's the question I have: how to build fame. Well, Dr. Kevin Keller from Dartmouth in the 1980s established brand equity theory. This suggests that organizations have brands, and these brands have value. And this value can rise with widespread exposure. The only problem is that in academia, we have this. This is called a preliminary structural equation model. It describes the relationships between variables. But this is a bit of a mumbo-jumbo mess for anyone. It's convoluted, it's crazy. It's just complex. It doesn't really describe the world around us yet. So I sought to decode this, to find out exactly what it means, and to see if I can somehow practically apply it so that I could build fame. So let's then again think what a brand is. With brand equity theory, it suggests that we all have a brand maybe, but we know organizations do. And that's because individuals have this what's called brand awareness. Think of Nike, Adidas. You see the symbol in your mind. It's there. It's almost ingrained in you. Coca-Cola. You've seen it so many times. You've been exposed to it through games and television commercials and magazines, all these different mediums. So with brand awareness, we know it's possible for people to remember not just organizations, but maybe us. So then how does celebrity essentially come to being? Y'all, who is this? Tell me. You can talk to me. Who is it? Kobe. Yeah, Kobe. It's LeBron James. But is LeBron James' name on here? It's the easiest question of the night. No. I know you see his watch and his really well-tailored suit, but we know it's LeBron James in essence. Why? Celebrity is almost ubiquitous. It's like celebrity has always existed as long as we've had the ability to exchange communication and create tribal organizations among people. So if a celebrity, the idea that someone will be more amplified than somebody else, the idea that someone would be more prominent than someone else, the idea that someone's charisma or looks or basketball ability or some attribute would be amplified beyond somebody else to create the idea of celebrity, if that is innate within us, then why don't we figure out how to freaking build it? That's the question I have. And I propose that we all have a brand, not just organizations. And we don't need Nike or Adidas or Coca-Cola or any other associated value. We can have ourselves, because now we have social media. We have so many different ways to express who we are, to gain followers, likes, comments, pins, posts, shares, favorites, anything that we want, to really raise our brand value. But of course, that's not enough, because we all kind of do that. We're all snapping and putting up pictures on Instagram. It just doesn't really make the celebrity for us. So then, how do we freaking do it? How do we build fame? So I started collecting all of these different videos that had gone viral. And I sought to conduct a simulation where I would go viral and gain widespread exposure. So I collected about 200 videos initially to see what thematic trends began to come up. Why are these people becoming more famous than others? Why are they getting their 15 minutes of fame when I'm not, and you're not? Why? And what I found is that the reasons and processes by which they gain their widespread exposure seem random. And it was intensely disappointing. It sucked. We needed to know why, and we just couldn't figure it out. So I looked a little bit deeper, and my questions began to narrow. It wasn't so much about why we couldn't build fame, it's that maybe randomness told us something. This is Kevin Alaka. His job is to watch YouTube videos for a living. He's the trends manager with Google. He gave a TED Talk where he said there are 3 main reasons why things go viral: randomness, creativity, and tastemakers. Okay, randomness we got. We see that. Will we all agree that those videos I showed you earlier were random? Yeah? Okay. Creativity. I think some of those are really creative. What the fox says, or what does the fox say? Excuse me, I almost dropped an F-bomb on you. What that video really denotes is that creativity can inspire viral activity. And it was hilarious. So there are some other attributes to identify as well. But tastemakers, that's the key one. If we could get a celebrity, or even B-level celebrities, to push our content and amplify what we have, then perhaps we're making some headway. And then we'll be abiding by what I call the Kevin Alaka principle. Okay, so I decided to narrow my focus onto one demographic. A demographic I could more readily understand. One just like me, balding men. And I also realized if I'm going to reach out to tastemakers, they had to be bald. They had to relate to me. They had to have a reason, some kind of principle, some inspirational point by which they would then retweet, pin, post, comment, share, like, favorite, or something on my behalf. All right, so the next step I had was to study how these viral videos of balding men grew. And what I found is that there were geographic growth patterns online where communities were sharing humorous videos of balding men by the hundreds of thousands, and in some cases by the millions. And these video shares came from dark places of the internet. I don't recommend chasing them down. And what I also found is that there was a certain personality typology. There were 3 main personality attributes that I identified through a content analysis. They were male hubris, irreverence, and humor. Well, these are attributes that I kind of already have myself, so it wouldn't be hard to adapt that in my own simulation. The next thing I realized is that there were video formulas. The videos themselves that were going viral had some replication potential. While there was variance, I could definitely replicate what the videos were doing that essentially allowed hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to see them. So I decided to build my simulation, and I called it baldlogo.com. And at this time, contrary to what most conventional speeches would ask, please pull out your phones and for later check out baldlogo.com. It's still searchable online. Now, this is not the first time this idea has been tried. It first came out in 2007 in a video clip from Whose Line Is It Anyways? This idea that you could sell ad space on bald people's heads. And that's essentially what Bald Logo does. This is a business simulation that sells ad space on bald people's heads. We have male hubris, irreverence, and humor. We have our video. We have our website. We have now also a war room team. I then collected a bunch of friends of mine who I could trust that I thought were awesome. And with all the money I had, I started dumping them into resources where this team and I could push certain strategies. I'm about to tell you how you can build a viral campaign. Let's do it. First, my favorite 4-letter word in the whole world, data. We started collecting every single contact information bit that we could possibly find on celebrities. B-level, A-level, C-level, it didn't matter. We wanted, if they had a baby mama drama saga and a girlfriend or boyfriend way far away, we needed their information to get at the celebrity. If they had a Twitter handle, we needed it. If they had an address, we were going to write letters. We wanted that information. Anything we could find on the internet, we found it. News stations. We wanted every single news station possible. We wanted to get all of their contact information, especially those who had written a human interest story within the last 2 years. And then finally, everyone was suspect. If you had a friend, an aunt, a crazy Uncle Dave, it didn't matter. We needed their information because we were going to eventually solicit them to share our story, to let them know about baldlogo.com. One news story broke from the New York Daily Freaking News. And when they ran this story, everything started to change. Of course, when you get any one story in the paper, that's not enough. To make something viral, you got to push harder. So we did. So after the New York Daily News, we threw our first party. All of our immediate friends came and said, hey, you're kind of onto something, and this video you made is really funny. All my friends liked it, and they're starting to share it. So I watched the video go from about 500 hits to 1,000 hits, and then 10,000 hits. So then at about 10,000 hits, I did what's called P2P. This is called peer-to-peer marketing. Peer-to-peer marketing is when you pay somebody to tweet, pin, post, like, share, comment, favorite, like, whatever, poke, it doesn't matter, in favor of what you're doing, as though it's authentic, but they just got paid, but you can't tell. Have you ever seen a friend of yours endorse something that's from a company maybe, and you're like, why are they endorsing soap? I don't understand. But it looks like an authentic tweet. This is peer-to-peer. You can pay people, and it can go from celebrities all the way down to your friends. And we paid anyone that would take the money, and it wasn't much, to tweet baldlogo.com. Another story broke from the peer-to-peer campaign. Los Angeles freaking Times. The Los Angeles Times ran the story, and it was almost verbatim from what the New York Daily News had run. And when you get one story to run, another publication will pick up with it. Next, we started to go after the tastemakers. The Kevin Alaka principle really started playing. We hit them as hard as we could with every single piece of media we had, every message we had. I made videos that were personalized. I wrote letters and hand-signed them. Anything I could do, and one broke. So we liked, pinned, shared, posted, tweeted, followed, commented, snapped, everything we could possibly make to make this work. And we got one. Ali Velshi from CNN at the time tweeted, a bald man is selling ad space on his head. The Kevin Alaka principle works. My brand value is beginning to rise. The bald logo simulation is working. After Ali Velshi, I went on the #1 morning news program in Australia. Over 1 million people watched me make fun of Kevin, Kashi, and Mel. I didn't really mean to. I didn't mean to troll them. It just happened. It kind of came out of me. It was in my heart. But the whole thing, this whole business idea, wasn't necessarily that genuine. It was a marketing exercise. But now we had clients calling, so I had to incorporate the business and start doing a lot more things with this. And the war room got a little bit busier. But we didn't stop and we didn't deviate from our original principle and our original idea, which is to build a viral campaign. So then we went after all the B-listers we could. Now that we've got stories in the news, and the AP Wire had just picked it up, so that means all local stations are running our story. We thought that some television shows might put us on. We got one. Steve Harvey. He's really bald and huge. So Steve Harvey put me on his show, and I told the world that baldlogo.com was going international. That was not exactly accurate. But in a way, with the internet technology, it's possible, right? So we can make that happen. My real objective, though, was to incorporate a new strategy. But before that happened, I got published in over 35 countries and over 10 languages in broadcast news and print media. And right about now, online, I have about 700,000 views on my YouTube channel. Things are about to get weird. So I start throwing parties. Look at the RSVP list on this. 16,290 people. It wasn't hard to get B-listers to show up to this. And the kind of names that I had that came to the party began to ask me for contracts for anonymity, because what happened at these parties was not to be spoken of. All right? But what's more important is that we were building a buzz, and our friends wanted to be part of the action. In every state we went to, we could throw these parties and bring really cool people to be a part of it. The tastemaker principle was working. The Kevin Alaka principle was working. Our brand value was rising, so brand equity theory, theoretically, was working. Now it was time for the A-listers. Look, we've been published in 35 countries and over 10 languages. We've had Steve Harvey, the New York freaking Daily News, the Los Angeles freaking Times. All right, I'm throwing parties with 16,000 people. This is nuts. I need an A-lister. I got one. Ellen, our girl, she came through. Ellen, she was awesome. She did mess up the name of the URL, but we fixed that really quickly by buying that URL and pointing it to baldlogo.com. And I did that within about a minute and a half while my whole team in the war room is screaming, crying, and going crazy. We're having a good time. So things get really weird. This is a crowd that followed me around in Times Square after one of my filming segments with Larry King's new network called Aura TV. I go to airports and people come up to me crying. I'm signing people's heads. I'm signing babies' heads. I've got people coming out of the woodwork. I've got ex-girlfriends now. I've got everything's going wild. And what I recognize is that my brand value had risen. This is the real deal. That essentially it could happen if we just followed a certain formulaic approach. And perhaps it was customizable to more people than just those who are beautifully bald. Okay? Perhaps we could have something more in the future for everybody. Even companies, if we wanted them, but more importantly, individuals like us. Those in college that wanted to raise their brand value, throw better parties, or maybe get into a great PhD program like I am in here. I'm so grateful to be here, and I believe it's because the principles from brand equity theory worked. The idea that we all have value, individually. And this value can rise with widespread exposure. So now these equations make a little bit more sense. Mathematically, we can now map out the relationships between variables, and I can articulate them better because I've experienced them. I've had what's called participant observational study. That's an anthropological approach to learning. It's also narratology and how I describe it to y'all. And more importantly, it's like an ethnographic cultural experience. My experiential learning gives me more credibility. And I think more people ought to go viral so they can experience this. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. All right? So I decided to share it with my siblings. This is my brother here and his wife. My brother and I met Michaela, his wife, at the Playboy Mansion in LA. I would say our brand value rose. I actually talked to her first, but he got the girl. That's another story. That's another type talk. This is my sister Marla. She's now a Fox News legal commentator. By leveraging some of the resources we learned and some of the processes we developed in our methodological approach, Marla now is more than just a defense attorney. She comments on issues like Justin Bieber's trial about a fake baby, or George Zimmerman and his saga. Marla on Fox News and David and his great life and how they both improved are a way to prove the practical implications of how to build fame. So that leads me back to the similar question that I posed earlier from Andy Warhol. Perhaps in the future, not everyone will have their 15 minutes of fame. Instead, we'll have the tools at our disposal to build fame, if we so choose.